Daf Yomi for Shabbos Kodesh, Shabbos Agadol, Yud Beis Nisan, and so that we're going to start the daf at the bottom of Nun Aleph Amud Beis at the Mishnah. The daf is dedicated for Shemira for Am Yisrael, Shemira for the Chayalim, Yeshua for the Am Yisrael during this difficult time, and Hatzalah for the Shvuyim. So Daf Yomi tells us, the Mishnah says, Kamate Yasela Chasera V'lo Yiyeh Ba'ona. So we know that the law of Ona, which we've seen 1/6 according to the Rabbanan, or 1/3 according to Rabbi Tarfon, is also going to apply to coins. That if you have a coin that you use all the time, and the more you use it, it disintegrates. So how much can it diminish in its value? And if you still use it, you're not going to be tricking the person through the laws of Hona, through price fraud. So Kamatei Aseo Chaser V'lo Yeh Ba'ona. So Rabbi Meir says, Arba Asiros and Isar Dinar. So Rabbi Meir is of the position that until the coin diminishes 4 Asirot from the 96 Asirim that make up a Selah, and this is the measurement of an Isar, and that is Isar Dinar, that there is one Isar for a dinar. This goes according to, meaning to say, there are 4 dinarim in a selah, and 96 isarim make 1 selah. So therefore, we're going to say that the measurement of 1/24th, if it diminishes by 1/24th, then we're going to say there's the law of Ona. Earlier we had said 1/6 or 1/3, and here we're saying that by the coin, that there's Ona even if it's only 1/24th. Whereas Rabbi Huda says, Arba pundios, which is a pundion with dinar, 4 pundios, and that is when we're going to say that that there are 12 punjanim that make up a dinar. And so therefore, we're going to say that this is going to be a diminishing of 1/12th. And so therefore, we're going to say, hold on one second. Therefore, we're going to say that under these circumstances, the Ona is 1/12th, which is also less than a 6th. Rabbi Shimon says, no, we need Shmona Pundios, Shnei Pudanrim Dinar, which is what we say is 1/6, and that's what the Rabbanan said in the previous Mishnah. So, or Mishnah, 2 Mishnahs ago. Ad Matai Mutar Lahachzir, and how long can you come back and make this claim? How much time do you have on a limitation? So earlier we had said by objects, you have either, Rabbanan said, until you show it to your relative or to your friends. And Rabbi Tarfon said you have the whole day. But here we say, Bikrachim, if you live in the large cities, Ad Kadei Sheyara El Shochani, until the time you show it to the money changer. But Bikfarim, but in the villages, Ad Arvi Shabbosos, you have until Erev Shabbos, because on Erev Shabbos you have to go spend the money to buy your meal for Shabbos. And then when you go to spend your money in the store, then you'll know if you're going to be able to use it, if people will accept it from you. Im Haya Makira Afilu Achar Shnei Masar Chodesh, but let's say if you only notice the coin that after a year, and he wants to return it even 12 months later, even though it past this time, mekablai menu, then the person who gave it to you should still accept it from you back. He should do the right thing, but if he should accept it from you from midas chasidus. The Gemara would say that as an act of piety, he should accept you. Ve'englo love elatarumos, but you don't really have any legal arguments against him. Ve'nos no meiser sheni, and we know that you can deconsecrate your tithe that you want to take to Jerusalem. You could transfer the sanctity onto the coins. And so this coin also, even though it's hard to spend, you could put the produce onto this Meiser Sheni. Because, and the reason why you're able to do that, and we don't have to be concerned that it's considered to be like a coin that has no form, because we learned earlier in our chapter that you can't redeem the Meiser Sheni onto an Asimon, which is a coin that has no form on it. And even though that people aren't using this coin and accepting it for its face value, but they're basically accepting it for metal, nevertheless, Kiva, the reason why is because she'enu el nefesh ra'ah, meaning to say it really is a valid coin. It's just those people who are tough people, who are tight people, who are frugal, they're the ones who don't accept it, but it's still considered a coin. Viramini, so the Gemara says, but we have a contradictory source because we learned in the Mishnah how much can the coin diminish and it's not going to be considered a na. And then we say the different measurements, either 1/24th, 1/12th, or 1/6. And so therefore, we see from here that if the coin diminishes to this amount, there's not going to be ona. But if it's greater than that, it is ona. But we have a contradictory source that states, it states in the contradictory source, ad kamatei asel chasera v'yehebona, and that there's a different that the Brisa says that it says how much will the coin diminish, and there will be ona, and according to this approach, when it comes to these measurements, it is ona. So it's basically a basic contradiction. So it says Rav Papa Lukasha Tana Didan Kachasha Mimata Lamala. Tana Barak Kachasha Milamala Lamata. So the author of our Mishnah looks at the diminishing coin and says, what is above this that's going to be considered, that we're going to say that if the loss is not as great as this, if the fraud is not as great, there's no ona. And Tana Barak Kachasha Milamala Lamata. He counts from above to below, meaning say it's a greater loss than this. And so therefore he says that there will be ona. And so but less than this, there's no ona. So Gemara says, Maishna basela tepligi. Why do they argue by a sela that's diminishing? Umaishna batalas tepligi, meaning to say that we said three positions in our Mishnah. One was 1/24th, one was 1/12th, and one was 1/6. So why is we have the position of Rabbi Meir here as 1/24th, and Rabbi Huda is saying 1/12th? So how come we have their positions? So, but we don't have their positions about the garments where we say it's 1/6. So Amarava Mantana. So the Gemara says, who is the one who says that the talis is 1/6? Who's the one in the previous Mishnah that says, oh no, it's 1/6? That's Rabbi Shimon. So the Rabban in the previous Mishnah are Rabbi Shimon, and that's what we're saying over here. So the Gemara says, Abai Amar. No, Abai says, no, it's possible that they all agree with the Rabban in the previous Mishnah. Talis achtus machol inish, because the whole idea of 1/6 is just a svara. It's just something that where the rabbis came up with, that this is what a person, that if it was less than that amount of fraud, the person would be waiving his rights. So we say a talis achtus machol inish. A talis up until 1/6, a person is waiving his rights. The Amri Inchi, because people say ashik legabayach, buy a talis to put on your back, even if it's worth a lot of money, vishavi kursech. But that which we need for food, you should only buy for its value and not more. But meaning to say, overpay for a talis by 1/6, but not for food. But selak, even though sagile lo machol, but a coin, if it's going to go down in value, even less than a 6, it won't have any use whatsoever. And so therefore, they wouldn't waive it even if it's less. But a garment, people waive their rights because they need to use the garment. They need to buy the garment. Kufa, so the Gemara says, let's go back to the bright side. Meir says Arba Isaros, which is 1/24th. Isar Ladina. Rabbi Huda says Arba Pundos, Punjon Ladina, which is 1/12th. Rabbi Shimon says Shmona Pundos, Shnei Punjon Ladina, which is 1/12th. Yes, or okay, if the coin diminished more than that, but it didn't, then if the coin diminished more than that, mochra b'shaveh, then you could sell it for its value as though it's the complete coin. Ad kama tipach as v'yerushala kaima. How much can it diminish, and you're allowed to sell it? B'sela ad shekel, for a seller it could diminish all the way until a shekel. B'dinar ad rova, dinar you can diminish it until a rova, and pachas mikan isar, and less than that, if it's an isar, asar, you're not allowed to use it. Harei zeh William Karena, and then this coin, you're not allowed to use it tagar, charam. You can use it with a merchant, or you can't even use it with a haram, someone who steals money of others. Harag. You can't give it to a murderer. You can't give it to any of these people because they're not honest and they're going to use it and misuse it. So what you could do is you can make a hole in it and put it in your son's neck or your daughter's neck as like a necklace. Gemara says, Amar Mar, Basela shekel, Bedinar Roba, that you can use the coin if it's a sela until it becomes the value of a shekel, which is half a sela, or a dinar ad rova. The Gemara assumes that a rova is a quarter of a dinar. So the Gemara is asking the question, Ma'ishna basela ad shekel, why by a sela can you use it up until it gets to be a half its value? Ma'ishna b'dinar ad rova, and why by a dinar can you use it until it gets to a quarter of its value? So it says Abaye, my rova to katani, nami rova shekel. When it says rova, here it means a quarter of a shekel, and so therefore it's basically the same thing, that it means half of a dinar. Amarava daikanami dikatani rova volkatani revia. You can infer because it says rova and doesn't say revia. Shma mina. Ramalela mislayo a dinar b'shekel. So then why are they calling a dinar? Why is the Tana saying the value of the dinar as a quarter of a shekel? It should say half a dinar. So it's a different coin. So the Gemara says, Milsa agavorcha kamashon, because the Gemara wants to teach us something in a roundabout way. The iko dinar to ase shekel, that there is a dinar, that there's a coin that's a dinar that comes from the coin of the shekel, meaning to say that when the shekel gets diminished until half its value, it becomes like a dinar, and this type of dinar you could keep. This is support for Rabbi Ami, who says that a dinar that comes from a shekel you're allowed to keep. Dinar haba metzia, but if a dinar comes from a sela, meaning to say that if a sela became diminished until it's the value of a dinar, also a kaimo, then you know how to keep it. Okay. We go into the brisa. How much could it diminish and you're allowed to keep it? For a sela until a shekel, for a dinar until a rova. Pachas mikan iser aser. So my kamar, what does that mean? Amar by hachi kamar, that pachta sela yoser michtei ona, that if the sela went down more than the ona that the Tanaim said. And what is that? Isar, Aser. Then you're not allowed to sell it, but then you're not allowed to sell it as though it's a complete coin. Well, if that's the case, if we're talking about a coin that came down more than the type of ona, even a little bit, even if it's more than that, you're not allowed to sell it because there's ona. Amarava pachta sella Isar dinar. Meaning to say, if the seller diminished the amount of an Isar for every dinar that's in the seller, meaning to say it went down 4 Isurim Asar, you know how to use it, Ustamak Rabbi Meir, and therefore this price is like Rabbi Meir, who says that it is 1/24. That's the upshot. Tanan Asam, so the Gemara says, the Gemara is going to bring a Mishnah that we have the prohibition of keeping a coin that's diminished. We're going to the Mishnah in Kalim, even though a coin is not considered a utensil and therefore it doesn't become tamei, or a utensil so it becomes tamei. Nevertheless, selash and nifsala, let's say you have a coin that was diminished, it became used, veskina, and then it was fixed. She is shokoba mishkolos, and you can use it now to use as a measurement, as a weight, tameya. Well, now it's become a utensil, and so now it becomes tamei because now it's a utensil. Ad kama tipacha isviye rasha kaima. How much can the coin diminish and you'll still be allowed to keep it in order to sell it? L'sela shnei dinarim. Sela goes down to half. Pachos mikan yakutz. If it's less than that, you have to basically use it as jewelry. Cut it in half and make sure that nobody uses it. Yasser alkein mai. What does it mean when it says more than that? Amar Afuna pachos mikan. When it's less than 2 dinarim, yakutz. Yes, okay, but when it's more than 2 dinarim, yakuts, meaning to say, so what is the law if the value of the coin is more than 2 dinarim? So Rafuna says, just like if it's less than 2 dinarim, you have to break it because maybe they'll try to use it as when they use it as a shekel. Also, yes, okay, when it's worth more than 2 dinarim, yakuts, because we have to be concerned that he's going to use it as a seller. Ravami Amar Pachas Mikan and yes, Yakaim. He says you're allowed to keep it because it's obviously less than that, and you're not going to come and switch it. So the Gemara says, Meisvei, we have a contradictory source. It says yes, or okay, that if it's more than that, we sell it for its value. My love, so aren't we talking about a case where it went down more than its own? No, and the says no. Yesera dakati lo pachta, where if it's more than that, but it still has not reached the diminishing of the ona, then you could sell it for its value. But we have a contradictory source. How much can you lower it and you'll be allowed to keep it? The sell shekel. If it's a sell until a shekel. My love, aren't we talking about a case, the pachat porta, that it went down a little bit? The Gemara says, no, we're talking about a case, the nafal lenura, that it fell into a fire, the iflit bahadas, and came down all at once. So now the Gemara says, Amar Amar, we learned that in a situation where it went down in value more than half its value, you're not allowed to keep it. You make a hole in it and give it to your son or daughter as a necklace. But we have a contradictory source about a coin that became disqualified. You can't use it as a weight. And you can't throw it amongst the broken pieces of silver. You can't put it as a necklace. But you either have to grind it up, or basically destroy the coin, or cut it in half, or throw it away. So therefore, it's very clear that you're not allowed to keep it as jewelry. Well, it depends where you make the hole. If you do it in the middle, it's going to be obvious that it's no longer a coin, and you can't use it as a coin anymore. So that would be okay. But where you put it on the side, then somebody might still try and be deceptive and use it as a coin. So that's what the Gemara is saying. So now up to the next piece in the Gemara. The Gemara says, how long do you have to return it to the village? How long do you have to make your complaint? In the large cities, until you show it to a money changer. In the villages, until Erev Shabbos. How come by a coin they give you more time? They say all the way until you show it to the... Why by a coin do they make a distinction between the large cities and the small cities? But by a garment in the previous mission, they just said until you show it to your friends or relatives. They don't make this distinction between a large city and a small city. Says also the earlier mission that talks about objects also was learned that it was in the cities. And so there it is only until you show it to the merchants or to your relatives. But if it would be in the villages, there's a different time. And it doesn't tell us what the different time is, but the Rasha says presumably it's until Shabbos. Rava says no. Tawas ko inish kimle begaveh. Rava says different distinction. Everybody knows the garment's value, even in the villagers. But even the ko inish kimle begaveh, but the coins, most people don't know their value. Ela shochani, the money changer. Hilkach bekrachim, the ika shochani in the large cities where there are money changers. Until you show it. But the Kvarim, the Leka Shochani, but the villages, there's no money changers. So therefore, at Arvei Shabbosos, this Salkin Lashuka. It's only until Friday when you go out to the market. And then if you recognize it, even after 12 months, the guy can accept it. But if he doesn't accept it, you have no legal complaints. If after 12 months you want to return and say, you gave me a bad coin. Hey, where? You just said in the large cities only until you show it to the money changer. In the villages only until Friday. So Rav Chisda didn't send Nemar being bekrachim. So says Rav Chisda, this law is midas chatzidus shanukat. When they say that you accept it up until 12 months, that's only from the aspect of piety. Meaning to say it's not the law, it's just from the aspect of piety he should accept it. So what's a chassid? Somebody who gives up on himself because he doesn't want to have even a scintilla of sin. But what about the next clause? Of tarumos. He only has a complaint against him. If you want to say, if it's for the pious person who gave the coin and now he went and accepted it back. He shouldn't. If you're saying that if he accepts it, he's going to get a complaint against him. Let him not accept the coin, and then the guy won't have a complaint. He doesn't have to accept it, and it's better that the chassid shouldn't accept it than to have his complaint. No, so maybe you want to say that it refers to the person who receives the coin. Impossible. If he's accepting the coin, why is he going to have a complaint? So this is what it means. If somebody's not a chassid, even though he doesn't accept it, the guy doesn't have a formal argument, just as he just has a complaint, but he doesn't have a legal argument. And you give it to Meiser Sheni, and you don't have to be concerned for a nefesh ra. You don't have to be concerned for a bad guy. So the Gemara says, Amra Papa Shmamina Haman de Mukim Azuze Mikri Nefesh Ra. So we learn from here that if there's anybody who doesn't want to accept this money because it says it's a bad coin, he's called a Nefesh Ra. That's where the coin is good. He just not as nice as he wants. This supports Chizkiah. Damar Chizkiah. Bala Porta B'Shavev. Person wants to change his copper coins, you have to give him the same value. But if you want to add the value, take the value of the Meiser Sheni and add it onto a coin, you have to assume that it's like it's a good coin. My kamer, even though when you exchange the copper coin, you're doing it for its value, which is diminished. When you redeem it, you can view it as though it's a good coin. Remember the Savar Chizkiah, the Mezal's on the Meiser Sheni. Does this mean that you could redeem Meiser Sheni for less money than its value? Amar Chizkiah, Meiser Sheni, Shein Bo Shav Pruta, Vu Chom Sho, Chol Amos, Omer, Hu V'Chom Sho, Chol Amos, Harishonos. But we allow you to do that because we say that if there's Meiser Sheni and you can't redeem it onto the coin, you're allowed to do it onto a coin that you already did other Meiser Sheni. The Meiser itself, which is now worth a pruta, and the 1/5 will be both in Mechol. Mechol Amos Harishonos, because you already did the first Meiser. And what's the reason why I could do it? Because you can't be exact. My biyafa. So the Gemara says, no, what does it mean? Biyafa b'toras yafa. As though it's a good coin. The trade zilay lo mizal zolin, because you can't do two zilzulim to the Meiser Sheni. One, to diminish it to redeem it onto a lesser coin, and also to redeem it as though it's complete. So we don't do both of those things. All right, we'll stop here. Shkoyach. This is the Daf Yomi, which we'll pick up again and repeat on Shabbos. Shkoyach. Thank you.